Some time ago, a number of countries already started to discuss the deliveries of F-16s and training of the Ukrainians for operating this fighter aircraft. This is very important. Of course, it's not the only game changer on the front, but this is a very important part of the ability of Ukraine to establish the control over its airspace. Ukraine is not controlling all of its airspace currently, so they need more and more fighter jets to be able to first protect their airspace and also to try to push back on all the attacks that are coming through the Ukrainian airspace. And nowadays, unfortunately for the Ukrainians, but also unfortunately for Putin, he is not able to do anything else militarily than to attack Ukraine through the air, because on the ground he is not achieving any meaningful progress. So what is left to him is to sending the missiles and drones and bombs which are flying through the airspace. And if you want to guard and protect your airspace, you need first very good anti-aircraft and anti-air defenses, and of course fighter jets, so that your fighter pilots can operate above the skies and protect the country from above, be it shooting down the missiles, being pushing back the bombers who are sending out these either missiles or the bombs. So it's very important component, but it's not the only one. This agreement on security commitments provides a long-term guarantees for Ukraine that we are going to help and support Ukraine so that it is able not only to win this war, but also that it is able to face any possible future aggressions. It's very important. So Ukraine has an agreement on security commitments with the EU as such. And in addition, Ukraine now almost every week is announcing and concluding a bilateral set of agreements, security agreements with our member states or with other partners, such as UK or other countries around the world. This is very important because it shows the commitment of partners of Ukraine worldwide to help and support this country. And it shows the unity of the international community when it comes to supporting Ukraine and facing the Russian aggression. So the more countries have these security agreements with Ukraine, the better for Ukraine, the better for the international stability. And on the side of the European Union, it's important that we made this gesture and this step because this is done in the name of 27 member states. And this is encompassing and bringing under a sustainable framework everything what we were doing until now. So military assistance, security assistance, but also financial assistance, humanitarian assistance, cooperation on cyber, for example, also very important. Training of the Ukrainian soldiers. So these are all very important components that underline our commitment to help Ukraine not only today, but also tomorrow and in the long term. And it's a very strong and powerful signal also to Russia. For us, it's only natural that we are trying to help Ukraine to protect itself. We are doing it in many different ways. One of them is, besides the supplies of the military material for the self-defense of Ukraine, we are also training the soldiers on the EU soil so that the soldiers are able to operate the weapons provided by the Europeans. Whether we are going to enter this conflict, I mean, of course, we are not interested in conflict. But if the question is, are we going to train the Ukrainians in Ukraine? Well, that's one of the options because it's most practical and most effective. Are we doing it already? Not yet. We are discussing it. For such a decision, we need a unanimous agreement of 27 member states. It's one of the options which are on the table. It's being debated. It's not decided yet. It's one of the options. For us, this is not entering the conflict and the confrontation with Russia. This is just helping Ukraine to exercise its legitimate right to self-defense on Ukrainian territory. So it has nothing to do with Russia. It has everything to do with the need to protect Ukraine. There is no exact timeline for becoming a member of the European Union simply because the accession process to the EU is a very long process based on the ability of the candidate country to deliver on the necessary criteria. In a very simplified terms, EU is a club with certain rules and criteria for membership. Anyone who wants to join the club needs to meet the criteria. And this is a very long process. We have 35 chapters in which the accession is being negotiated. This is a process which takes time. It takes a lot of efforts on the side of candidate country to deliver reforms, to adopt the necessary legislation and to proceed forward. It's not easy. Ukraine is doing a lot of efforts, but we cannot say when exactly it will be done, because it really depends on the ability of Ukraine to sustain the very good tempo and the very good progress. It can be done in very few years if the country is really doing all the necessary reforms and fulfilling the criteria very fast. It's not really linked to the war. Of course, European Union is not interested in importing the problems into its territory, and that's why we are insisting before every enlargement in regional cooperation, reconciliation if there are open issues with the neighbors, good neighborly cooperation. But we are also acknowledging the very specific circumstances of Ukraine, who is a victim of a brutal illegal aggression. And there is no condition in the EU accession process saying if a country is fighting for survival, the country cannot become EU member state. There are criteria which are technical, sometimes bureaucratic, sometimes very practical, but none of the criteria says that the war would be a condition under which the country would not be admitted. Ideally, of course, EU is a peace project, but if this peace project can help Ukraine to survive and can protect it from destruction by an aggressive neighbor, then of course, I mean, everything is open. The accession is very much process driven by unanimity of 27 member states. So I would say anything is possible as long as it is in line with the EU legislation and in line with the unanimous agreement of all the member states of the EU. Every country is free to choose whomever the voters in this country want to represent them and to run their country. It's not our place to comment on personal nominations or on personal profiles of people running in the election campaign in our democratic partners. What is important for us is to work together, in this case with the United States, as we have worked in the past, because we share so many things. The partnership between the EU and the United States is the closest partnership we have with anyone in the world. And I think it's in the interest of the EU, in the interest of the US, and in the interest of the global stability that we are continuing working as closely as together, especially when it comes to re-establishing the respect for international rules and re-establishing the global security and stability. Russia, under Putin's regime, is not a factor of international stability and security. So we need to work together with as many partners in the international community to make sure that this person will not continue destabilize the world and the world order based on rules and UN Charter. And well, if it not be possible, we never speculate on what if scenarios. We always try to achieve things with the partners at hand. And I think whoever comes to power, be it in the United States or in other countries, who will realize the responsibility of leading the country and the responsibility of contributing to the global stability and security. At this stage, these are pure speculations. The facts are, and this is the facts we are dealing with, Ukraine is under illegal aggression. Ukraine is fighting for its survival. Ukraine is fighting a legitimate war of self-defense. We Europeans, we will be standing with Ukraine in this fight for as long as it gets. We will be trying to bring other partners on board. If they don't want to, okay, their decision. But for us, it's a vital interest. It's our neighborhood. So we will continue our support to Ukraine with whatever it takes, for how long it takes. So this is our position. And again, who will be in the White House as of after the elections in November this year, we will try to work with them, explain them the risks and the problems. And one basic fact, the peace in Ukraine depends first of all on the decisions of the Ukrainian people. They are the victims. They decide when it's time to stop fighting and for how long they want to fight. And no one else can decide or impose this on them. This is the basic position of the European Union. We respect and support Ukrainians in their decisions because they are under attack. They are facing destruction as a nation, as a country, and they deserve all the international support they can get.